To start with, I am not a huge fan of the government. Okay. But unfortunately, these companies brought all this upon themselves. There is on that subject, I will debate until tomorrow morning with you. Look, we all know. I mean, rideshare and delivery space are not that different these days. It used to be quite a bit of a difference. These days, look, the other thing is, all your chat, all the people in your chat, they need to have a reality check as a rideshare driver. That's why we're trying to tell our community of 175,000 subs now. You need to have a reality check. I mean, you need to question what you're doing. Why are you doing it? And would you be better off, exchanging your so-called flexibility and freedom with a, job that pays you minimum wage or less in your state? And, to me, that reality check is a must. One. Two, again, I said I'm not a huge fan of the government, but at this point,
neither am I. I think that's something we probably.
But at this point, Pedro, with the companies paying, I mean, look, we know the trend in rideshare as well as delivery, right? I mean, let's call it, base fares. We know what has happened to base fares over the last 6-7 years. Nothing but down, right? I mean, I do quite a bit of deliveries myself. I enjoy it. It's my relaxing time. I kind of, reply to some of the YouTube comments or whatever when I'm doing it, because I'm super cherry picker when it comes to deliveries. I mean, I can't work for $2. Look, I can't take a burrito for $2 in my 2-ton car. It's just not going to happen. I mean, we'll talk about New York, obviously. We'll talk about the other states. But so with that caveat that I'm not a huge fan of the government, these TNCs are, transport network companies, and DNCs, delivery network companies, they need a brake check. And the government and legislation and possible regulation is their brake check, because unchecked, look where we got, right? You remember your days of base fares of $5 minimum. Now your base fares are $2 minimum. I mean, I'm seeing some trips that are less than $2. What can I do I can even buy a pack of gum for less than $2. What are we doing here, right? Yeah. So unchecked, this is what the game plan of these companies is, and they're going to keep doing it until there is some resistance, until they're brought to the table. So I don't know if you know who Josh Gold is. Josh Gold is head of Uber legislation. Okay, he was the guy actually that signed the contract with, the settlement with the New York AG after 7 years, right? And I had spoken to him personally, and this is what he wants. He goes, Sergio, look, you seem like a reasonable guy. All we want out of all this, look, if you guys bring legislation that's like going to make everybody employees, we're going to fight with everything we have, and we're going to kill it. No ifs and buts about it.
Right.
But we will come to the table and talk to you people, as long as you guys are willing to stay independent contractors. So we ran a survey on our channel. All 3,000 people voted. I mean, it's a small sample size, I get it, but out of 85% of all the respondents said we want to stay independent contractors.
Right.
15% said we want to be employees. Okay, good. And that's what the companies are saying as well. DoorDash is saying the same thing. Grubhub, Uber Eats, Lyft, they're all saying the same thing. But we also ran a concurrent survey with that question, which was, do you think you are being treated truly like an independent contractor? On that one, the opposite was the case. 70% said, nope, I don't think I'm an independent contractor. 30% said, yes, I'm an independent contractor. So there is this dichotomy. There is this conflict between those two things, right? And my thing about legislation is bring these companies to the table, because that's the only way they're going to come to the table and discuss rates like or benefits like Seattle.
Let me ask you this.
What happened in New York City, right? So that's my push towards proper legislation, by the way. And lastly, I'll finish with this, is a lot of legislatures, they don't drive. Like, Stephanie Vigil in Denver, right? She was a driver. She knew what she was talking about. She brought a very clean bill with not much, really, nothing to do with earnings, nothing to do with base fares. What did the companies do? They killed it. Same thing in Minneapolis. They killed it. These are powerful, powerful companies. And in order for them to come to the table and talk some sense, we need to also educate the legislators, because these people write laws that are completely against what these companies want to do. So you have to have some sort of a give and take, right? You have to give up some things to receive some things. And that's where legislation is going to be necessary. Otherwise, These people are going to screw the driver on the rideshare side and the delivery side all they want.
Well, the companies will definitely do that. Let me ask you a question. When you say we got to get them to the table with proper legislation, what does that look like in your opinion? And also, second part to that question, do you think we're at the table with proper legislation right now in some cities?
In some cities we are, in some cities we're not. Look, the companies, all they want, I'm telling you, this is from the horse's mouth, and I'm allowed to say this on your channel, and I said it on our channel. That's what the companies want. The companies want, let's start the conversation with one thing. You guys need to give up your collective bargaining rights. You guys need to give up unionization. We want you to stay independent contractors because our business model cannot support 20 million employees. It's just
no, it can't.
But that also coincides with the community's voice of them wanting to stay independent contractors. Look, that's their problem. That's the workers' problem. For one reason or another, people want to do this. Okay? For one reason or another, they want to stay independent contractors. Have they done their numbers? Do they look at profitability? Why do they do it? Everybody has their own reasons, and we're not going to get into any of that. But look, community says we want to stay independent contractors. The companies say we want all of you to stay independent contractors. So there is like a meeting of the minds there, right? And now all we have to do is introduce proper legislation for the companies to come and negotiate. Same thing happened in Seattle. Same thing is happening right now. In fact, Tuesday, we're going to have Malda. Malda is Minnesota Uber Lyft Drivers Association President Eid Ali and Senator Fatah, who is a senator of Minnesota, and they're very friendly to the driver cause. There are certain things the drivers want on both ends, rideshare or delivery, which is higher earnings, obviously. That's the number one thing. Everybody wants higher earnings. Unjust deactivations, safety. These are the things that we want as the driver community, and these companies are not deaf to it. But in order for that, but they're not also going to do it on their own. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. They're going to squeeze as many orders as possible. Like DoorDash did 562 million orders last quarter. How did they all get squeezed into the system? I mean, a bunch of them are $2 no-tip orders, right? And same thing in rideshare. I mean, I personally went out and drove. I did something last weekend that I had not done in 8 years of being a rideshare driver. I went out and took 20 in a row. Like you've done videos like accept everything. Rideshare. Yeah.
Oh, it had to have been rough.
Oh, no. You know what? After the third, fourth, before I pulled my hair out, I was like, whatever's left of it, I got relaxed. I go like, okay, I'll just allow the algorithm. Let it take me wherever it's going to take me, right? Yes, it took me all over LA, and then I put all my numbers out. In LA, doing rideshare. I mean, rideshare is a little bit more risky, obviously, than food delivery because I have a passenger in the car. You have the risk of that.
Yeah.
So as far as my numbers were down to the penny, $21.50 before expenses for all 20 trips. That includes gas, depreciation, maintenance, wear and tear, all that, right? Well, my car is a 2021 Santa Fe, Honda Santa Fe, and it runs on about $5 to $6 an hour, depending on the variability of the gas cost. Well, if I took $5 out, I work for $16.50, accepting all 20 trips, doing rideshare. Well, I can make more money going standing and flipping burgers somewhere for $20 now.
You absolutely can without as much risk.
Yeah,
and liability,
no risk, and no wear and tear on your car, right? So to me, at the moment, people, this is the reality check that your community, our community has to do. Be honest with yourselves. Look at your numbers deeply. Is there an alternative for you? Is the freedom and flexibility worth you working for less than minimum wage? And if there is no legislation, these companies are not going to do anything about it. Like, they did it in New York City, pushing and shoving. Obviously, they're putting some schedules on people. Obviously, they own the apps. They can do whatever they want. Yeah. And that's the, collateral damage that we'll talk about in New York City. But ultimately, in order for us as rideshare and delivery drivers to have a voice, to, look, we can all get on our channels and yell and scream and complain. Not going to get anywhere. We've been complaining for 10 years. Where do we get us? Lower base fare.
That's my point, Sergio, is I feel like we have been, a lot of them have been complaining, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or Reddit, whether you have a channel or not, whether you complain to yourself.
They don't care.
And what's, all the strikes, I haven't seen much change. right? We
They
still
don't
see
care.
the earnings going down. We still see people coming in that are taking everything. We have some would say we have an issue with undocumented workers coming in and take a huge right with Spark, rideshare. So we have these things that are happening. The companies know it.
Yeah.
Right. So, why, in the beginning you said, I'm not really friends of the government or whatever. I'm not either. I don't want government in my gig work. So then why do we want to sit at a table? Because if we sit at the table with Uber, we got to have a politician next to us, don't we? We got to have somebody. So why do we think that that's the way that's
well,
going to make
if you don't want your earnings to the trend of your earnings to change, right? Again, at the start I said these companies brought all this upon themselves. All right. So that's my point when it comes to